Good evening and welcome to Inside City Hall for Monday, December 1st, 2025. I'm Bobby Kuza in for Errol Lewis. New York is betting big on casinos, with the state board issuing its final recommendations today that the state issue 3 gaming licenses to casino proposals in the Bronx and Queens. It is one of the final steps in this years-long process, and therefore it all has been our Courtney Gross, who joins us now with tonight's top story. Good evening, Courtney.
Good evening, Bobby. It has been a very, very long process. We have been waiting for years to figure out who was going to be the best bet in this casino competition, and the state board has issued its final recommendations, sending all 3 of the remaining applicants to the final stage of this casino competition.
They hit the jackpot.
Please place your bets.
Almost. The state's Gaming Facility Location Board made its final recommendations on Monday, saying the remaining 3 casino applicants, Bally's in the Bronx, Metropolitan Park, pitched by Mets owner Steve Cohen, and Hard Rock in Queens, and Resorts World in Southeast Queens near JFK Airport, that they should all get a state casino license, potentially worth billions of dollars.
We congratulate the selected applicants and wish them success in the Commission's licensing process.
The vote is a culmination of years of planning, pitching, and community input in a process that has attracted national attention and is slated to make New York City a premier destination for gaming in the country. While opposition still exists, it became clear throughout this process the state would want to generate as much tax revenue as possible, even if that meant the final proposals were close to each other.
At the end of the day, we believed, and the consultant's analysis uniformly showed this, that the market was big enough and that the 3, even though they are relatively close together, they are very different in concept.
Each pitches different amenities. Golfing at Bally's in the Bronx, a large entertainment complex at Metropolitan Park with a Hard Rock live theater, and Resorts World is already up and running. All told, the board projects these casinos will generate $7 billion in tax revenues from 2027 to 2036. And that does not include the hefty license fees each will have to pay should they get the final okay.
Feeling good, yeah. I mean, obviously we got to get it built, and we're excited to go. But to say that it was never in doubt is not really a thing. These processes are long and convoluted.
Well, this was a massive hurdle for these applicants. They must still get the final approval from the State Gaming Commission. That commission is conducting background checks and ensuring the applicants meet financial and ethical standards. They will make their decision by the end of the month.
In its decision document, the board did raise some financial concerns about 2 of the projects, that being Resorts World and Bally's. Bobby, they were questioning whether or not these 2 projects, because they're going to accrue so much debt to get these projects financed, they're wondering whether or not they'll be able to get the financing and whether or not they're actually going to get the projects completed. But that is going to be a decision and something that the State Commission will consider, because they have a very finite or specific criteria that they will be reviewing.
Right. So, I mean, it seems like a pretty safe bet that these guys are going to get the final licenses by the end of the month. And then, assuming they do, how soon are we actually going to see these casinos up and running?
I mean, I want to say you never know. I think if you were to bet, if we want to continue this analogy, it is likely that the State Commission will end up giving these licenses out to all 3 of the applicants. But, you know, like I said before, there are these financial and ethical considerations that they will be reviewing. And for instance, during the Q&A session today with the board, Vicky Bean, who I know you have on later in the program, the chair of the board here, was asked about previous SEC violations and a settlement that Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets and obviously leading the charge on Metropolitan Park, had with the SEC a number of years ago. Was that going to be a factor? And she punted, saying that's something the commission will review. So that being said, they still have things to consider. However, if they do get the licenses, the big projects, Bally's and Metropolitan Park, will open in 2030. And then Resorts World could have those table games up March of next year.
Right. All right, Courtney Gross, thank you so much for that report. After the city and Starbucks agreed to a $38 million labor settlement today, Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani promised he won't stop backing causes favoring workers' rights once he's in charge of City Hall. But But Mamdani wouldn't say whether he supports another set of workers, city council members, and their push to give themselves and Mamdani a pay raise. Our State House reporter Bernadette Hogan joins me now with the latest on that story. Good evening, Bernadette.
Good evening, Bobby. And Zohran Mamdani, as a state assemblyman, is no stranger to protests. Now it begs the question whether or not he will draw a line in the sand once he becomes the mayor.
Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani and one of his political icons, Vermont U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders, joined protesters outside a Park Slope Starbucks alleging unfair labor standards.
These are not demands of greed. These are demands for decency.
On Monday, City Hall announced a $38 million landmark settlement with Starbucks, favoring claims from workers across the city's hundreds of Starbucks locations, alleging the multi-billion-dollar corporation routinely violated fair labor laws, like constant schedule changes, inadequate payment, and the inability to decline extra shifts.
These are workers who are simply being asked to be treated with the respect that they deserve.
The mayor-elect is no stranger to protests. Recently, Mamdani's top staff joined another Starbucks picket line. When asked whether he will abandon the activity,
when I become the mayor of this city, I'm going to continue to stand on picket lines with workers across the 5 boroughs.
After campaigning on a platform to make New Yorkers' lives more affordable, Mamdani could sign off on giving himself, the public advocate, city comptroller, and all 51 members of the city council a pay raise. Asked if he would sign the legislation if it passes the council.
I'm not worried about the hypotheticals at this time. What I can tell you is that every single day from now until I become the mayor and then after that is going to be focused on how we can improve the working conditions for workers across the city.
Currently, Mayor Eric Adams makes about $258,000 annually. If approved, Mamdani's new salary could spike to almost $300,000. That's more than Governor Kathy Hochul, who rakes in $250,000 annually as the highest paid governor in the nation, but less than the $400,000 annual paycheck collected by the president.
There haven't been any adjustments in the pay raise since 2016. Some people will side-eye that for a little bit, and that's a normal response. But I think what's important is to know is that we are having all the fights.
And right now that pay raise proposal is just a bill, Bobby, but it could come before the city council for approval. And if it does, Mamdani will have to make a decision whether or not to jack up his own salary as well as the city council. And again, it's an optics question. Is he delivering a more affordable for New Yorkers or for himself and the other lawmakers that he'll be cutting deals with?
And he's still in that rent-stabilized apartment. Which,
right. And will he move to Gracie Mansion,
right.
which is really nice public housing?
Right. You know, it's interesting. Mamdani is obviously so pro-labor, but once he's in office, he's going to be on the other side of the table negotiating contracts with city workers, right? And he's going to have to he's going to have the city's financial interests.
Right. I mean, you have some of the strongest labor unions in the country right here in New York City. And Mamdani was backed by some of the most powerful ones, right? The Hotel Workers Union, 32BJ, SEIU, you have DC 37, UFT, right? The Teachers Union. You're going to have all these unions that are going to be coming to the table asking for sweeteners for their workers. And it could really test both Mamdani and his team with how they're able to, you know, be good stewards of the city budget, which has multi-billion-dollar deficits, at least in the upcoming year and years, and whether or not they're able to make good on these promises in name only thus far with the unions.
All right, Bernadette Hogan, thank you so much for that report. One quick programming note before we head to break. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani will join Errol Lewis right here on Inside City Hall tomorrow to talk about his transition to City Hall. Be sure to tune in tomorrow at 7 o'clock. And it's time now for a break. Coming up, as federal immigration authorities ramp up operations here in the city, we are taking a closer look at just who ICE is arresting. And later tonight, I will be joined in studio by the chairwoman of the Gaming Facility Location Board, Vicki Bean. Stay with us. We're back in a minute.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost. And that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure. Why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of, they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Data analyzed by New York One shows that the number of ICE arrests in New York City and around the country are already higher for the first 6 months of the Trump administration than for all of 2024. The data on arrests are providing some insight into federal immigration enforcement operations in the city. New York One's Eric Feldman has been looking into the numbers, and he joins me now with more on that story. Good evening, Eric.
Good evening, Bobby. Yeah, we went through hundreds of thousands of data points to try to understand what has been happening, not only around the country, but zeroing in on New York City, comparing ICE enforcement from the Biden administration to the Trump administration.
President Donald Trump, as a candidate, made a promise often during the 2024 presidential campaign where immigration was front and center.
If I win, you will have the largest deportation program in the history of our country.
We've seen the FBI, the DEA, and other federal agencies join ICE, arresting non-citizens in cities across the country. And here in New York, federal agents arresting people at immigration courts.
ICE is in the Bronx.
Taking people into custody in different neighborhoods, including recently Canal Street vendors. These have been individual stories we've reported on for months.
I found my baby! I found my baby, no!
But now we're able to share the big picture about ICE's immigration arrests so far this year. New York One analyzed hundreds of thousands of data points on ICE arrests from 2024 to July of 2025, covering the last full year of the Biden presidency through the first half year of the Trump presidency. The number of arrests, but not necessarily jailed, already higher 6 months through President Trump's time in office than the entirety of 2024.
They have extraordinary resources to do that.
Graham Blair's the co-director of the Deportation Data Project, which obtained in a public records request all the data New York One analyzed. The UCLA political science professor says he only expects the arrests to rise, with this year's budget bill increasing funding for immigration enforcement and detention capacity by nearly $100 billion until September 2029. And since January,
we're concentrating on the worst first.
The focus from the Trump administration,
bringing in the worst of the worst and getting them off of our streets,
has been consistent.
You were going to deport the worst of the worst.
Violent
criminals. We're doing that.
Here in the city, there were 917 convicted criminals arrested in the first 6 months of the Trump administration, already nearly double the entire total in 2024. Missing from this data, though, when the convictions happened, what the crimes were, and where. But when you look at the convicted criminals being arrested and jailed in New York City, it shows a wide range. There were crimes that are almost always felonies, from homicide to kidnapping and from aggravated assault to human trafficking, making up about 20% of the total. But the rest fall into one of two buckets. Crimes like larceny, DUI, and fraud that could be either felonies or misdemeanors, and crimes like disorderly conduct and traffic violations, which are predominantly misdemeanors.
There's a really big divergence between the messaging coming from the Trump administration and the kinds of people that are being detained, put into detention, and deported.
The Trump administration has a website dedicated to the worst of the worst. But in the city, only 27% arrested are convicted criminals. Even adding those with pending criminal charges, it's only 42% of the total arrests in the city, meaning more than half are not convicted felons or with pending criminal charges. The Trump administration not only promised more arrests, but more deportations too. And so far, the data shows that's happening in New York City at a 150% rise.
And there's one other piece of data I want to talk about, Bobby. So there are people who have been ordered deported by an immigration judge, and after they've exhausted all their appeals, it's called a final removal order. And from the Biden administration to the Trump administration, there's been a nearly 500% increase in those people who have been arrested. And Graham Blair from the Deportation Data Project says that in the past, maybe ICE those would be lower priority arrests compared to people who are, dangers to the community. But with the increase in funding that ICE has received, he believes that is why we have seen a major increase in that category of people who've been arrested.
So when we look at the data for New York as compared to the rest of the country, when you look at the national data, I mean, how does it compare? Is there a sense that there's more or less of this type of immigration enforcement here in the city?
So there's been also an increase in arrests and deportations around the country under President Trump, already at higher numbers than the entire 2024 under President Biden. And the number of convicted criminals who've been arrested is nearly the same already, even though it's just 6 months of data under President Trump versus a whole year under President Biden. But it does represent a lower percentage under President Trump of the total number of arrests being convicted criminals than under President Biden. And as we talked about in the piece, something to just caveat, it is important to note, just because you're a convicted criminal, the data doesn't show what you were convicted of, when, or where that happened.
Right. All right, Eric Feldman, really great reporting. Thank you for joining us. Meanwhile, there are new questions over the legality of military strikes the Trump administration is conducting on suspected drug smuggling boats. Lawmakers in both parties are pledging to investigate after a report over the weekend claimed Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, ordered the military to, quote, kill everybody aboard one of those boats. The White House says an admiral made the call and that the strike was in accordance with international law. Spectrum News national political reporter Taylor Popolars has the latest in this report.
The president meeting Monday with top national security officials to discuss military strikes off the coast of Venezuela, as reporting from the Washington Post raises questions about the legality of the strikes. Since early September, the Trump administration has conducted military strikes on nearly 24 boats, killing at least 83 people. The Washington Post reported Friday that back in September, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth gave a spoken directive, according to 2 people with direct knowledge of the first operation. The order was to kill everybody, one of them said. The Post story said after the first strike, 2 survivors were clinging to the smoldering wreck. The Special Operations Commander overseeing the September 2nd attack ordered a second strike to comply with Hegseth's instructions. 2 people familiar with the matter said the 2 men were blown apart in the water. The Intercept first reported on the second strike back in September, and the Post broke the news of Secretary Hegseth's order. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed Monday an admiral did order that second strike, but disputed the Post's reporting about Hegseth's wording.
I would reject that the Secretary of War ever said that. However, the president has made it quite clear that if narco-terrorists, again, are trafficking illegal drugs towards the United States, he has the authority to kill them.
On Friday, Hegseth posted a defense, saying these highly effective strikes are specifically intended to be lethal kinetic strikes. Our current operations in the Caribbean are lawful under both U.S. and international law. As he he returned to Washington Sunday, President Donald Trump said he had great confidence in Hegseth, but said he wasn't pleased with the idea of a second strike.
I don't know anything about it. He said he did not say that, and I believe him 100%. You don't know? We'll look into it. But no, I wouldn't have wanted that, not a second strike.
Bipartisan members of the House and Senate Armed Services Committees say they will investigate.
If what the Washington Post has reported is accurate, there was clearly a war crime committed.
Georgetown University professor Anthony Aaron says international law is clear and goes back hundreds of years.
You cannot refuse to allow someone to surrender, and you actually have to provide assistance and aid to people who are what the phrase is hors de combat, meaning they can no longer participate in combat.
The Trump administration has argued these boat strikes are justified because the boats are allegedly transporting illegal drugs to the United States. But concrete evidence has not been made public or shown to Congress. Leavitt said Monday that Secretary Hegseth spoke with some of the concerned lawmakers over the weekend. Reporting at the White House, Taylor Poplar's Spectrum News.
It is time now for a break. Coming up, while we are still 1 month away from the swearing in of the new city council, Julie Menin is already preparing to lead the chamber. We will tell you more about her political rise next. Stay with us.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
At Spectrum News, we're committed to strengthening the fabric of local communities through our reporting, with stories that inspire and news that matters on your smart TV and connected devices, streaming live 24/7, plus on-demand weather forecast to help you stay prepared. It's all there as you step outside with the Spectrum News mobile app, keeping you informed and in the know throughout your day. Spectrum News, free with your Spectrum subscription, exclusively for Spectrum customers, now available on your favorite devices.
It's only a hike. It's only made possible by Spectrum Business connecting healthcare providers of all sizes. Like hospitals relying on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network with industry-leading reliability. Practices keeping patient data safe with advanced security. Pharmacies accessing records in the cloud without fail. It's tailored connectivity solutions built for life-changing moments. It's only a hike. It's only everything. Spectrum Business.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard. At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York 1 to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood. Because our city never stops moving.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories. But first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Julie Menin may not be a household name just yet, as New Yorkers are getting to know the city council member who is claiming enough support to become the next city council speaker. Menin would bring to the role decades of serving communities from Lower Manhattan to the Upper East Side. And our Ayanna Harry has a closer look at her career, and she joins me now with more. Good evening, Ayanna.
Good evening, Bobby. She was an advocate for Lower Manhattan after September 11th and even brought the Grammy Awards back to New York City. Julie Menin has a long history of taking on big challenges on behalf of New Yorkers.
There's a real sense of urgency about the issues ahead.
Julie Menin is poised to step into one of the most powerful roles in local government, declaring she now has the support to become the next city council speaker. For Menin, it's the latest chapter in a long career serving New Yorkers.
My business was destroyed on 9/11. That's how I first got involved in public service.
The daughter and granddaughter of Holocaust survivors and a wife and mom to 4, Menon began her career as a regulatory attorney. In 2000, she opened a restaurant in Tribeca, and when the September 11th terror attacks transformed the neighborhood, Menon launched a nonprofit to help local businesses, Wall Street Rising. Next, she became chair of Community Board 1, where Menon is credited with supporting the community's comeback.
We're going to have 5 million visitors a year coming to the Ground Zero Memorial when it opens. What does that mean for Lower Manhattan?
During her time as Community Board Chair, Menon navigated several tense, high-profile issues, including anger over a proposed Islamic community center and mosque near Ground Zero, Park 51. Menon fought to keep the prosecution of 9/11 suspects out of Lower Manhattan.
Have a federal court trial, but have it at a military installation.
And during Occupy Wall Street protests, Menon managed relations between local residents, businesses, and demonstrators.
We've met with the protesters now 3 times, and we've negotiated an agreement with them to stop the drumming at 10 p.m.
After a failed run for Manhattan Borough President in 2013, Menon later joined the de Blasio administration, first serving as commissioner for the Department of Consumer Affairs.
Julie does nothing lightly.
Next, she became the city's media and entertainment commissioner and brought the Grammy Awards back to New York City. And for her next act, Menon was named the city's 2020 census director, undertaking a count of city residents during the height of the pandemic.
The Trump administration tried to add the citizenship question. They tried to defund New York. They tried to have us lose not only funding, but political representation. We're fighting back.
Representing the Upper East Side and Roosevelt Island as a Democrat in the city council since 2022, Menon's built a career as a moderate voice and would make history as the first Jewish speaker of the city council. While Menon has been described as someone who can serve as a check on the Mamdani administration, Menon told New York One her focus as council speaker would include
the affordability agenda. We need to build more affordable housing, clearly doing universal child care.
Menon says she also wants to make the city more affordable by lowering rents as well as health care costs, Bobby.
So, I mean, she's in support of universal child care. I've heard her say she supports free buses. She's okay with this new Department of Community Safety that's going to operate alongside the NYPD. They have a lot, I mean, she has a lot of common ground with Zohran Mamdani, even if she may, to some degree, serve as a check on him as well.
Yeah, that's certainly the tone that we're hearing from Julie Menon so far. And it is important to note that the actual vote for the next city council speaker is still a few weeks away. So Julie Menon has to hold on to the support that she currently has and hope that, you know, the political dynamics don't change before then. But so far, she is certainly expressing a tone that she, you know, seems like she wants to work with the Mamdani administration and agrees with him on many points. But of course, as we saw play out during the Adams administration, you know, it could seem like a cooperative relationship at the beginning, but we'll see how it comes down once they begin really working through legislation.
And obviously, Julie Menon is a savvy political operator, you know, as evidenced by the fact that she cobbled together the support to become council speaker very early in this process.
Very early in the process, and I was looking through the list of the council members and council members-elect that support her, and it's a pretty diverse list. There are Democrats and Republicans on there, people who are more conservative, people who are considered more moderate. So it does seem like she was able to really work through her relationships in the council in order to get the support.
All right, Ayanna Harry, thank you so much for that report. It is time now for a break. Coming up, 3 casino proposals in the city passed a key hurdle today. I'll be joined by Vicki Bean, the chairwoman of the state board that recommended the licenses, when we come back. Stay with us.
In Focus with Cheryl Wills. A weekly show discussing decisions and potential solutions for issues making an impact in your community and your city. If it's important to New Yorkers, then it's being talked about here. In Focus with Cheryl Wills. Sunday mornings at 10:30 on New York One.
It's only a slice. It's only made possible by Spectrum, connecting businesses of all sizes, like small businesses, instantly serving up orders and inventory on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network. And factories, seamlessly connecting to farmers in the field with tailored solutions that always deliver. It's only a slice, it's only everything. Get your business free fiber-powered internet forever. Call to find out how.
I'm Chris Jakovic. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakovic, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. As we told you earlier in tonight's show, all 3 remaining casino proposals, 2 in Queens and 1 in the Bronx, were recommended for approval today by the Gaming Facility Location Board. The board cited the economic benefits of the casino projects. The state's Gaming Commission is now expected to issue the final licenses by December 31st. And here to break down what this decision means and much more is my next guest. Vicki Bean is the chair of the Gaming Facility Location Board and the former deputy mayor of Housing and Economic Development under Mayor Bill de Blasio. Welcome back to the program. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So we started out with many casino proposals. Eventually we were down to 3 and 3 licenses. So was this decision maybe a little easier and less suspenseful than it could otherwise have been? Was this sort of a no-brainer?
Well, I think it was definitely easier, but that said, we paid really close attention to every single thing that was promised by those 3. So we really did have a hard choice to decide whether should it be 2, should it be 3, should it be 1. So it was easier, but it wasn't easy.
Yeah, and of course with 3, I mean, I think one of the primary concerns here is that these 3 casinos, especially given the fact that they're in relatively close proximity, could cannibalize each other, right? I mean, I guess the question is there, a finite number of gamblers? Are there only so many gamblers to go around, and therefore they could eat into each other's business? Or is that not the way that the gambling market is expected to work?
So we were very concerned about that, but our consultants did a lot of work looking at modeling how much demand is there, will the demand go this place or that place, right? Bally's is likely to bring people from Westchester. Queens is likely to bring people from Long Island. The airports obviously are important. So what they looked at is what's the total, assuming that if you give 3, it's going to take some from one to another. But the analysis is that this is one of the largest markets really in the world, certainly in the United States. And there's plenty of market there to meet the supply.
Right. I mean, another thing we often hear is that with casino projects, the revenues often fall short of what the casino companies themselves project. So, I mean, what does it mean for the state if these casinos aren't as successful as they hope to be or as they're advertising themselves to be?
So our projections are based upon our consultants' analysis, not on the applicants' analysis. The applicants are, they're optimistic. But we ask our consultants, be conservative. We want to be surprised on the upside, not on the downside, right? So we're pretty confident that they're conservative estimates. And obviously, if they don't meet them, we will see less tax revenue. But we kicked the tires pretty hard with the consultants, and they believe this is an unusually wealthy and many people in the area, and that there's plenty of a market.
Talk about some of the downside. We'll talk about the benefits in a minute, I promise, but talk about the downsides that the board had to consider because, obviously there are community concerns, whether it's traffic or disruptions or neighborhood character, and then of course, problem gambling. And, I've heard you talk about the fact that with this plan, there's more active intervention with problem gambling, potentially. Talk about that a little bit.
So we were concerned about the answers that we were getting on how are you going to address problem gambling. The first answers that came in were really, we post signs about help is available here. And we asked, how much are you actually intervening and helping, doing a warm handoff, so that somebody who's identified themselves or that you've identified as a problem gambler, you actually stay on the line, stay with them until they get help, which is what happens in Europe, what other states, New Jersey is considering having a more interventionist approach. So we asked the applicants to really focus on doing more in that area.
Right. So we're talking about billions and billions of dollars in tax revenue and these licensing fees up front. We'll talk about how much money we're talking about and where this revenue is going to be going.
So right off the bat, there's $500 million for each one of the licenses, so a total of $1.5 billion. That all goes to the MTA. So new subway stations, new, ADA accessible upgrades, those kinds of things. So that's up front. Over the 10-year period that we're talking about, 2026 to 2033, we expect to see about $7 billion in tax revenue from the gaming, right? That's not the revenue from the gaming, that's actual tax revenue into the state and the city. We also expect, and the counties, we also expect to see about $5.9 billion in additional property taxes, income taxes, et cetera, from the kinds of jobs that are being created and that kind of thing.
And, we focus so much on the casino aspect of it, but there's a lot more, right? I mean, there's hotels, there's, concert venues, there's restaurants. These are going to be, sort of full service complexes beyond just the gambling.
Yes, they're really entertainment districts is one way to think about them. You can come see a show at the theater. You can go outside in Metropolitan Park, and there will be like a band shell type of thing where performances will be. You can go play golf at Valley. So it's a very wide range of activities that are available, all of which will be generating sales taxes and other taxes for the state and the city.
So this is not the last step. This now goes to the Gaming Commission. I mean, to what extent is this sort of a rubber stamp, or are they, examining the finance? Are they sort of starting from scratch and examining the finances of these different proposals? What happens from here?
They don't re-examine the criteria that we were asked to examine, but they do start afresh or start, from the ground up on the things that they were assigned to do. So, for example, character and fitness of the applicants and the people that make up those corporations or those entities. That is a matter for the Gaming Commission to decide, and they will do that from the ground up.
Right. There was this issue of money that's going to the Trump Organization, which I know has been a point of contention. $115 million to the Trump Organization because they formerly controlled the Ferry Point golf course. Did that come into play at all in the consideration of the board?
No, that's not something that we were. That was legal for us to consider, and so no.
Okay, so you talked about the money for the MTA. The rest of the tax revenue goes to the state. Is this just into the sort of the state's general fund, and is this something that's already been budgeted for on the state level, or is this sort of above and beyond what might generally be expected? Is this sort of a bonus from the state's perspective?
So by law, the money goes either to the MTA or to education, or some amount of the money goes into problem gambling services, right? So it's directed in those three ways according to a formula that the statute provides.
Right. One of the, or a few of the proposals initially were in Manhattan, of course, and I think there was a school of thought that Manhattan was sort of a logical location because you've already got the transit access and a lot of tourists. I mean, would that not have been one of the most natural location for one of these casinos, given that, we ended up with 3 in the boroughs?
Well, certainly the idea was people would come, go to Broadway, go over to the casino, take advantage of Manhattan's incredible restaurants. All that said, there's lots to take advantage of in Queens. There's lots to take advantage of in Bally's. And obviously the communities in Manhattan were very, very concerned about the congestion in terms of traffic, the congestion in terms of the subway system. So, the community advisory committees were charged with trying to figure out what do the communities want. And they said pretty decisively, the communities in Manhattan do not want a casino.
Yeah, well, the communities spoke. Well, very transformative projects that are now coming down the pike, assuming they get the approval of the Gaming Commission. And congratulations on getting through what I'm sure was a grueling process. And thank you for spending some time with us.
Thank you.
All right. It is time now for a break. Coming up, we are going to turn back to the mayoral transition when I'm joined by 2 top consultants. Stay with us. We are back in a minute.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer.
I'm so honored to be a meteorologist here at New York One because as a Brooklyn kid, this is the station that I grew up watching.
Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our weather on the ones. Watch the New York One weather experts on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. We just heard from the chair of the Gaming Facility Location Board about the board's decision today recommending gaming licenses for 3 casino projects here in the city. Joining me now to talk more about all of this are the 2 members of this week's Consultants Corner, Teresa Gonzalez and John Paul Lupo. Thank you both for being here tonight. So let's start with the casino projects. I mean, these are massive projects. Just watching today, the rendering for the City Field project, I don't know if people realize what's coming. I mean, talk about just general thoughts and your takeaways from the decision.
Or they do realize what's coming, and it's really exciting, right? One of the bottom line on most of this is these projects have been happening for years and years and years. It was a different time back when they were first launched. We are just as in need of funding or revenue as we were back then, and I think more so even now with the federal government that continues to kind of target us. So I think the excitement around having 3 casinos and the speed with which they've been approved, right, most recently, I think really points to the fact that people understand the need for them, that we are certainly going to see a hole in our budget that is going to need to be filled, and there's a lot of money to be had, both now and in the future.
Yeah, I think the open question with these projects, and you hope the safeguards are in place, we live in a city with crushing income inequality. Are the people who are gambling in these casinos and losing money, you know, some of the poorest residents of our city? Are there ways that we can stop that from happening? Are these mostly tourists? There is a lot of money, and that money can be put to good, but we have to be careful that this doesn't create a bigger problem than it solves, and I think that's what I'm interested in seeing as this plays out in the city. Are these beacons? Are they things that really improve our ability to fund schools and transportation and all the things that we need in the city? Or do they become their own problem that we then have to put resources into solving by creating, you know, a cycle of gambling addiction? And that's an open question, and you know, hopefully it turns out on the good side.
Let's shift gears and talk about Julie Menin, who is the apparent next Speaker of the City Council based on the votes that she counted last week. Talk about Julie Menin. I mean, it seems like she is perceived, at least, as a moderate who's going to be some kind of a check on Zohran Mamdani. I mean, I've seen a lot of leftists who are, you know, sort of vilifying her as though she's going to, you know, really push back on Mamdani's agenda. But I don't know if she's such a moderate. I mean, maybe a moderate, you know, relative to the rest of the very progressive city council. But I mean, she's pushed a lot of progressive legislation.
I think that's it. I think it's a couple of things. One is she's a veteran government employee, right? A government staff, not even a staffer. She ran the census. She ran media and entertainment. Yep. So she knows what she's doing around a government office, and quite frankly, more specifically, leading a government office. That is different than the other candidates that were in the race, right? You know, Crystal Hudson, who was one, a name that was thrown around a lot, was a council staffer. So I think that there is this feeling that she is a moderate, mostly because she's been doing this a long time. Also because she is more moderate than a lot of the council. I mean, we've even seen some new folks come in that are also progressive. There's a progressive caucus that's grown. It was really interesting to see, and quite frankly, how she has operated this, you know, rolled out her campaign very much points to her kind of knowing what she's doing and also being kind of a veteran in this space and different than other people in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we should dial that back a little bit. I mean, Julie Menin, as you guys have pointed out, worked in the de Blasio administration. He was a communist mayor before. Zohran was a communist mayor. She ran some of our most progressive and populist projects. She worked on going after, you know, corporations at the Department of Worker and Consumer Protection. You know, she ran the census, fighting back against Trump administration, which was trying very hard to curtail those things. So I don't know that she's a moderate. I think maybe there are some members of the council who are more progressive than her for sure. But we also have to look at what Julie will be up against in a mayoral administration that comes into office with an unprecedented coalition of elected officials and unions and this army of volunteers who we've seen online are very agitated about who the speaker is. She's got a progressive body. She has some instincts that are progressive, and she's got a body of work and this cudgel that the mayor has to say, I need you to help me with my affordability agenda, which I think she probably supports anyway. I need you to help me in Albany. And I've got this army of people who are very excited to get involved if that doesn't happen. So let's wait and see. I think we'll probably see a pretty progressive city council with Julie Menin at the head for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is her instinct and accomplishments.
What I will push back against here, and I agree with that, is you also have a business community and others who are really, really worried, whether for good reason or not, about what this new mayoral administration is bringing and whether it's going to be friendly to them. And they are also putting pressure on her, to be fair, to make sure that there's a balance there, right? So while she certainly isn't a moderate or part of the, you know, part of the Republican, more moderate council members, she is being pulled in many different directions, and it's requiring her to find a middle ground that I think she may not have had we been looking at a different admin.
By the way, you know, you guys are political consultants. What do you think of the job she did? Because this is a political process, right? She has to win over all the stakeholders, council members. you know, the political machinery and the boroughs, the unions. It seems like she pulled this off, you know, pretty effective.
I ran one of these things in 2013 for Melissa Mark-Viverito, who's an excellent speaker. This is incredibly hard to pull these folks together, to do it as early as Julie did with the margin that she did. When we announced Melissa's 30+ votes on December 19th, 2013, I didn't sleep for 3 weeks after that because I was afraid we'd lose a vote. They announced 36 votes last week. I think they added a 37th today.
Yep.
And everybody else dropped out, and the race was over a month to go. I mean, really incredible to Julie, and a great job that they did running the campaign. Now the hard part starts, as they say, but really historic.
All right, you guys sit tight. We got to take a quick break. I will have much more to talk about with these consultants when we return. Stay with us.
Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 on Spectrum News New York 1. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it's saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day with in-depth coverage of the day's developing news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following this morning.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Some morning sunshine possible, clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum customers.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. I'm once again joined by my Consultants Corner, Democratic consultants Teresa Gonzalez and John Paul Lupo. So let's talk a little bit about Zohran Mamdani. He was with Bernie Sanders today, appearing alongside striking Starbucks workers. Talk a little bit about, you know, the signal that Mamdani is sending here by appearing alongside striking workers. I mean, he's trying to project his priorities as mayor, right?
Both his priorities, but also, you know, he's now the mayor-elect. I mean, this was quite a shift for him. He very much is a part of, or self-proclaimed, DSA, member of the Democratic Socialists. They're all watching. There are a lot of folks on the left that feel ownership over his success. So there's a little bit of like reminding people of who he is that I think needs to happen to keep that connection going. He's probably has some, you know, he's got some favors that he needs to fulfill because of how many people got him through this race. And so I think this is both a signal of his priorities, but I also think it's reminding people that, like, I may be the mayor-elect, but I'm still this guy who really, really cares about these kind of super progressive values.
Yeah, I think as someone who thinks the affordability agenda that he ran on is incredibly important for our city to make progress on that, it's a very good sign. You get in that building, you get in the transition, all sorts of interest groups are coming at you, whether it's business leaders or people who have to be appointed or the urgent problems of the day that tend to eat things up, to go and stand with workers and show that you ran to be the mayor to make the city more affordable. You want people to make higher wages. You want their employer to treat them fairly. And to be willing to put your body on that and spend your time on it is an important signal as he transitions from candidate to mayor, that he's not going to lose sight of that. And I think it's great. I think he should keep doing it when he's in that building that can really suffocate some of the emotion and roots out of people. It's really important to get back out and talk directly to the people you're trying to help.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously trying to strike a balance between reassuring those people who are a little jittery about having a Democratic Socialist in charge of the city, but still, you know, trying to hold on to his base. Yeah. I mean, it seems like he's doing a pretty effective job of that so far. I mean, including just in these past couple months during the transition.
Yeah, look, I think there's a lot to learn. He's got a really smart but young team. I think there's some experience in the first deputy mayor and obvious connections to the de Blasio administration, who were Zoran take one. So I think there's that happening, but I think for the most part has held strong to his has really built his platform. He's being clear about what his platform is and what he intends to focus on. You know, building a really interesting team that reflects his values. Very young and really energetic people there. So I think there's some learning curves. I think he knows that. I think he's been doing a great job.
Yeah, and by the way, I should point out you were close to Bill de Blasio and worked with him in the early days. I mean, there's a lot of parallels to what's, you know, to the Zoran Mamdani dynamic right now and to what we saw in 2013 with Bill de Blasio.
Yeah, look, you campaign on, radical is the wrong word, but you campaign on aggressive ideas of reducing income inequality. When you get in that building, you got to run the government. You got to pick up the trash. You got to police the streets. You got to run the school system. You need people around you who can do that job. And Bill de Blasio certainly put government veterans in there. Bill Bratton is the police commissioner. We're seeing some similar appointments here. Obviously, Jesse Tisch, who is the existing commissioner, reappointed Dean Foulahan, who was an incredible public servant for Bill de Blasio, has outstanding experience, will help a lot in Albany to get the affordability agenda through, but also knows how to run those city agencies and make them go. But Elbias Gard-Church, who was his campaign manager and assembly chief of staff, who brings that emotion and value and commitment to the issues that he campaigned on, I really like the balance I'm seeing in the early days of the transition.
All right, guys, so much more we can talk about, but we're going to have to leave it there. Teresa Gonzalez, John Paul Lupa, thank you guys so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
And that is going to do it for tonight's show. Be sure to join us tomorrow night when Errol Lewis will be joined in studio by Mayor-elect Mamdani. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great evening. We will see you the next time on Inside City Hall.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s. But showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Exclusively on Spectrum.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything.
Hey, brother. Be careful.
Movies.
I've got this condition where I don't feel pain.
You're a superhero.
No. Series.
There was another murder in the building.
Sports. Reality.
Here's to a summer you'll never forget.
News.
Here's a look at today's top story.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
Even more of your favorites with live TV.
Welcome into First Take.
Stream across your devices and watch anywhere. At home or out and about. It's the entertainment experience you've been waiting for.